You know how often you hear the word strategy thrown around?
Oh,
For
constantly.
social media strategy, their product strategy, an aggressive growth strategy.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
But when you really dig down, what is it? What are we actually talking about?
It's a great point. That very ubiquity, it can make the word feel almost weightless sometimes.
Exactly. Which is why this framework we've been looking at feels so useful.
Definitely. And that's what makes the source we're diving into today so valuable.
Right. Today, we're trying to cut through that noise and answer the fundamental question: what truly constitutes a strategy?
Hmm.
We've been immersed in "Are You Sure You Have a Strategy?" by Donald C. Hambrick and James W. Fredrickson.
And their insights, well, they offer a remarkably clear structure for understanding what makes a real strategy tick.
What's fascinating is how they just distill strategy down to its core components.
Yeah, moving past those fragmented uses of the term you mentioned, like branding strategy on its own.
Right, and showing how they need to fit together into a cohesive whole.
And for you, the listener, this is going to be incredibly useful, I think.
Yeah, think of it as gaining a kind of strategic X-ray vision.
Ooh, I like that.
We're going to break down their 5 key elements. And by the end, you should have a much clearer sense of what makes a strategy robust and, well, effective.
Get ready for some moments where things really click into place, hopefully.
Let's hope so. So let's get right to those essential elements. Hambrick and Fredrickson identify 5 key areas.
5 core areas that every real strategy addresses.
Right. They call them the 5 elements of strategy, and the first one we want to tackle is arenas.
Arenas, okay.
Where will you be active? Now, this isn't just a vague statement like, we're going to be in the market.
No.
Yeah.
It needs a lot more definition than that.
Absolutely. It's about making specific choices about where you'll focus your efforts.
When we talk about arenas, we're looking for real clarity, specificity.
So, for example, what specific product categories will you prioritize? Which particular market segments are you going after? What geographic regions are key for you?
Right. Are there specific core technologies you'll build upon?
Or even certain stages in the value chain, from initial design maybe to final distribution that you'll actively engage in.
The source provides a really compelling illustration with a biotech firm.
Okay.
They didn't just say, we're in biotechnology. That's way too broad.
Right.
They specified their focus on T-cell receptor technology.
Okay, specific tech.
For both diagnostics and therapeutics, and even narrowed that down further to a specific class of cancers.
Wow, that's focus.
And they made very deliberate choices beyond just the technology itself.
Like what?
Well, they decided to keep research and development in-house, but to outsource the actual manufacturing and certain aspects of clinical testing.
So deciding what not to do as well.
Exactly. And geographically, they were very targeted, focusing just on the U.S. and the major European markets initially.
That level of detail, it really paints a picture, doesn't it? It's not just hand-waving.
And what's interesting to consider is that defining your arenas also involves deciding on the level of emphasis, the intensity of activity in each. Some areas will naturally be more central.
Right. Not all arenas are created equal in the strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we've established where a company will compete. That's arenas.
Mm-hmm.
The next critical piece is vehicles. How will you actually get there?
Right. How do you enter those arenas?
It's not enough to just identify your desired arenas and, hope you'll somehow arrive.
Precisely. The method by which you enter those chosen markets, those product categories, those geographic regions, that's a fundamental strategic decision in itself.
It shouldn't be an afterthought, right?
That's really not.
The source lays out several common vehicles.
Yeah.
Will your growth be primarily organic, like building everything from within?
Or will you look at forming joint ventures with other organizations?
Maybe acquisitions of existing players are your main route?
Or perhaps licensing your technology or products is the way forward.
Even creating entirely new entities in new markets. Greenfield startups, that could be a vehicle too.
Our biotech example illustrates this further. Remember, they targeted Europe.
Yeah.
For their expansion there, they opted for joint ventures, specifically to leverage the local knowledge and networks of partners.
Makes sense.
And then, to bolster their existing diagnostics business, they strategically acquired companies with complementary therapeutic products. So different vehicles for different goals.
And this is a point that really stood out to me.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't consciously choose your vehicles, you can really run into trouble.
Yeah.
You might face unexpected delays, incur unnecessary costs.
Or even find your entry into a desired market completely blocked. Stalled.
Yeah, just stalled out.
And as the authors emphasize, Different vehicles come with their own set of challenges. They require different capabilities.
Right. Successfully navigating an acquisition, for instance, demands a very different skill set than, say, managing a joint venture.
Absolutely. A company that doesn't have a clear and considered approach to its vehicles is, well, starting at a significant disadvantage.
Okay, so we know the where arenas and the how to get there vehicles.
Mhm.
Now for the crucial question,
How will you win?
exactly, how will you actually win in those arenas? That leads us to differentiators.
Differentiators. What will make customers choose you over the competition?
This is where you define your competitive edge, your advantage.
And these aren't just aspirations. They require deliberate, ongoing effort to cultivate and leverage. You have to build them.
The source offers some really well-known examples here. Think about Gillette,
Ah, the razors.
their proprietary product technology, right? Always innovating on the razor itself, plus that incredibly strong brand image.
Mm-hmm. Or Goldman Sachs. Their differentiator is often cited as their, well, unparalleled customer service.
Built on deep relationships and that coordinated suite of financial services.
Then you have Southwest Airlines.
Low fares.
Lowest fares consistently, coupled with that exceptional on-time reliability. That combination is key.
And Honda, they've carved out a powerful position by offering the best overall value.
Right, that compelling mix of quality and price.
And it's important to realize, like you said with Southwest, differentiation doesn't always mean being the absolute best in just one single aspect.
No, sometimes the most potent competitive edge comes from creating a unique and valuable combination of differentiators, like Honda does.
But here's the potential trap, the pitfall.
Okay.
If you don't make intentional choices about your differentiators, two problematic scenarios can emerge.
Right. One, you end up with no real differentiation at all because these advantages, well, they don't just materialize on their own.
No luck involved, usually.
Or two, you fall into the trap of trying to be all things to all people,
Trying to be superior on like 10 different dimensions at once.
which just stretches your resources way too thin.
Exactly. That scattershot approach often leads to inconsistency and ultimately dilutes any real competitive advantage you might have had.
The key is to identify a few core differentiators that not only strongly resonate within your chosen arenas,
But also reinforce each other and, crucially, align with your actual capabilities and resources.
it has to be something you can actually deliver on consistently.
Okay, we're more than halfway through. We've explored arenas, vehicles, and differentiators.
Making progress.
Now let's move on to staging.
Staging, okay.
What will be your speed and sequence of moves? This recognizes quite practically that you usually can't execute everything at once.
Precisely. Most successful strategies unfold in a logical order, right? Certain actions need to precede others.
It's about building momentum, creating a foundation.
The source uses a great analogy here, building a house.
Yes.
You have to lay the foundation before you can put up the walls,
Yeah.
right? And the roof is the final major step. You wouldn't try to do it all simultaneously.
No, that would be chaos.
They provide a practical example, too, with a printing equipment company.
Okay.
They had ambitions to both expand their product line and enter international markets.
Two big moves.
Right. But they realized that their sales agents needed a broader range of products to effectively compete internationally. They couldn't just go in with the old stuff.
So the sequence mattered.
Exactly. So their staging was deliberate. First, they focused on developing and launching new products. Only then did they move into international expansion. The sequence was driven by that clear strategic logic.
Another really insightful example was the regional title insurance company.
Oh yeah, the one with national aspirations through acquisitions.
That's the one. They recognized a kind of chicken and egg problem.
Which was?
They needed a strong national brand to make favorable acquisitions, but they lacked the scale and resources for significant brand building while they were just a regional player.
Ah, okay. Catch-22.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So their staging plan was quite clever. Stage 1. Make acquisitions in adjacent regions to build a super-regional presence.
Okay, build scale incrementally.
Right. This gave them a larger footprint, more credibility. Then Stage 2. Now invest in building brand awareness nationally.
With that bigger base supporting it.
Exactly. Finally, Stage 3. With a stronger brand and greater scale, they were much better positioned to make further acquisitions on better terms, while also continuing to strengthen that national brand.
That makes a lot of sense, a very phased approach.
Staging decisions like these are often driven by a mix of factors, aren't they? Like the resources you actually have.
Sure, budget constraints are real.
The urgency of specific market opportunities, maybe the need to build credibility quickly with customers or partners.
And even just the desire to achieve some early wins, to generate momentum and internal buy-in.
It's interesting how often this sequencing, this staging, isn't given enough explicit thought and practice.
It really does get overlooked sometimes.
Oh.
Okay, so that's 4 down.
One to go. All right, we've reached the fifth and final element, economic logic.
Economic logic. Sounds important.
It is. How will
Yeah.
you actually generate superior returns? And we're not just talking about the basic hope that, your revenue will exceed your costs eventually.
No, that's a pretty low bar for strategy. Hope is not a strategy, as they say. Yeah.
Exactly. A robust strategy has a clearly defined central economic logic, a deep understanding of how the organization will create profits consistently above the cost of capital.
So how are you making money, fundamentally?
The New York Times offers a good example here.
Okay.
Their economic logic rests largely on their ability to command premium prices.
Right, because of their perceived quality.
Exactly. Their exceptional journalistic quality and the affluent, engaged readership they attract allows them to charge more for subscriptions and advertising.
And that premium pricing then supports their presumably high costs of producing that quality content.
And allows them to negotiate favorable terms for things like content licensing, too. It feeds itself.
Then you have Aramark, the big food service and facilities management company.
Right.
They also operate with a premium pricing model, offering highly customized services to clients who are willing to pay for that level of personalization.
But they also benefit from something else, right?
Yes, a significant cost advantage due to their massive scale in purchasing food and supplies across their various business segments. Buying power.
So a mix of premium price and cost advantage. Interesting.
And the source even mentions their strategic decision years ago to divest their airline catering business because it no longer really aligned with that core economic logic.
Shedding something that doesn't fit the logic.
And consider GKN Sinter Metals. Their economic logic is primarily driven by cost advantage.
How so?
Through strategic acquisitions, they've achieved significant scale in raw materials procurement,
Buying power again.
and their deep expertise in metal-forming technologies allows them to operate with greater efficiency than many competitors.
The crucial point here, it seems, is that these successful economic logics are built upon fundamental, often enduring capabilities.
Yes. They aren't based on short-term market fluctuations or advantages that are easy for competitors to just copy.
These companies have developed something genuinely difficult to imitate. It's rooted in how they operate.
Now, understanding each of these 5 elements individually is important, absolutely.
Right.
But the real power of Hambrick and Fredrickson's framework comes from recognizing how they all interconnect, how they have to fit together.
Right. They refer to this as the strategy diamond.
The strategy diamond, I like that visual.
It highlights the necessity for all 5 elements to not only be present, but to form a cohesive, mutually reinforcing whole.
That's right. Each element demands deliberate choices. You don't just, stumble into a winning arena or accidentally develop a key differentiator.
No accidental strategies here.
And critically, each element requires focused preparation and investment in building the necessary organizational capabilities to support it.
And perhaps the most crucial aspect is that alignment, that mutual support among all 5 elements.
It's not just about making sure your internal operations align with your overall strategy.
Which is important.
It's very important, but it's about ensuring that the very components of the strategy itself, the arenas, vehicles, differentiators, staging, and economic logic, are consistent and work together to create a powerful strategic advantage.
And it's only once you have this clearly defined and integrated set of strategic choices across all 5 elements
Once that diamond is clear,
that you're truly equipped to design the other crucial aspects of your organization, your functional strategies, your org structure, your operational processes, in a way that effectively supports and reinforces that overarching strategy.
makes total sense. To really illustrate the power of this comprehensive approach, the source provides 2 excellent case studies.
Good. Examples help.
Companies with well-defined strategies. Let's start with IKEA.
IKEA. Okay, we all know IKEA. Affordable, Scandinavian-designed furniture you assemble yourself, usually with some frustration.
True. But beneath that simple description lies a very, very thoughtful strategy.
Absolutely. Let's analyze IKEA through the lens of the 5 elements, their arenas.
Okay. Clearly defined, inexpensive, contemporary Scandinavian furniture.
Primarily targeting young, white-collar consumers,
Globally, wherever feasible.
with a focus on controlling product design while outsourcing the manufacturing.
Right. And their vehicles. How do they get into those arenas?
Primarily organic expansion through wholly owned stores.
Yeah, they've strategically avoided things like franchising or extensive partnerships, haven't they?
Right. Seems like it's to maintain tight control over their unique and very consistent customer experience.
Okay. Differentiators. What makes them win?
A really potent combination, I think. A perception of low price coupled with reliable quality.
That unique, maybe fun, maybe slightly non-threatening shopping experience.
And the promise of immediate fulfillment. Walking out with a flat pack box.
Thanks to those vast in-store inventories. Okay, staging,
Yeah.
speed, and sequence.
IKEA has pursued a strategy of rapid international expansion, but they've done it methodically.
How so?
Entering one region at a time, typically starting with a big flagship store.
Generating lots of buzz.
Exactly. Huge PR and advertising push before opening additional locations in that region.
And finally, their economic logic. How does IKEA make money so well?
It's built on achieving massive scale economies and efficiencies of replication.
Okay, break that down.
Well, leveraging their global purchasing power for low-cost sourcing from suppliers.
Their designs are optimized for efficient manufacturing and that famous flat pack shipping.
High-volume stores drive down per-unit costs.
And that phased expansion, region by region, allows them to learn and refine their approach in each new market, making them even more efficient over time.
What's so compelling about IKEA is that remarkable alignment between all these elements.
Yeah, you can really see it. Their low price target directly informs their design choices and manufacturing strategy.
Their desire to control the customer experience necessitates those wholly owned stores.
It's a truly self-reinforcing system, isn't it? And it's clearly fueled their exceptional growth for decades.
Okay, great example. What's the second one?
The second example is Brake Products International, or BPI.
BPI. Less familiar name, perhaps.
Probably. This was a company facing significant challenges, really in need of a turnaround.
Okay, so strategy is a turnaround tool.
Exactly. Their new leadership team effectively used this 5-element framework to chart a completely new strategic course.
All right, let's apply the diamond. Arenas for BPI.
So they decided to expand beyond their traditional North American and European markets into Asia,
New geography.
diversify beyond just passenger car brakes into braking systems for off-road vehicles,
What are your product category?
and to offer a new capability, systems integration, basically bundling their braking products with other components to deliver complete suspension modules.
Okay, broader value proposition. What about vehicles? How do they pursue these new arenas?
A mix, actually. Organic development of new braking technologies.
Okay, internal R&D.
Formation of strategic alliances to support their entry into systems integration.
Partnering for new capability.
And the establishment of equity joint ventures in Asia, leveraging their technology and the local market expertise of their partners.
Got it. Differentiators. What were they aiming for?
Their key differentiators became their technological leadership in braking system,
Building on existing strengths.
their emerging capability as a comprehensive systems integrator,
The new value add.
and their growing global reach, with manufacturing facilities on multiple continents, positioning them as a single-source supplier for global automotive manufacturers.
Okay, that's clear. Staging. How did they sequence this?
In the first phase, they prioritized establishing those Asian joint ventures and launching a pilot program for their systems integration offering.
Test the waters, build foundations.
Exactly. The full-scale rollout of systems integration and their expanded global reach, along with their entry into the off-road vehicle market, was planned for a subsequent stage.
Logical progression. And finally, economic logic for BPI.
Centered on achieving premium pricing for their advanced technology.
Leveraging the R&D.
Capitalizing on the value proposition of being a single global source for braking solutions.
Convenience for big customers.
And offering potential cost savings to their customers through those integrated suspension kits.
And the result. Did it work?
Yes, the result was a significant and successful turnaround for BPI.
Wow.
And the CEO even credited the clarity and alignment that the 5-element framework brought to their strategic thinking as a key factor in their success.
That's a powerful testament to the framework.
So the central message here is really clear, isn't it?
Yeah, a true strategy isn't just a collection of unrelated initiatives or some, vague aspirations written down somewhere.
No, it's a carefully considered and integrated set of choices across these 5 essential elements: arenas, vehicles, differentiators, staging, and economic logic.
All working in concert, all reinforcing each other.
Exactly.
And for you, the listener, we really encourage you to think critically about the strategies you encounter.
Yeah, whether it's in your professional life or just in the business world around you.
Can you identify these 5 key components? Do they seem to be clearly defined? And, importantly, do they seem to be working together in a coherent way?
Now, it's worth remembering that defining these 5 elements is really the foundational step. It's the core.
Right.
As the source points out, once you have this framework in place, existing strategic analysis tools like, say, Porter's 5 forces
Which many people know.
become even more valuable. They help you rigorously evaluate and refine the soundness of your strategy within its competitive environment.
They also briefly touch upon 6 important quality criteria for assessing a strategy once you've defined the diamond.
Ah, yes. Things like its fit with the external environment. Does it actually match reality?
Does it effectively leverage your key resources and capabilities?
Are your chosen differentiators actually sustainable over time or easily copied?
Is the strategy internally consistent? Do the pieces clash?
Do you actually have sufficient resources, money, people, time to execute it?
And ultimately, is it implementable? Can you actually make it happen?
These are all critical considerations as you develop and refine your strategic choices, really stress testing the strategy.
Now, some listeners might be thinking, okay, this sounds great, but in today's incredibly dynamic, fast-changing world.
Does such a structured approach to strategy still hold relevance?
Right. Isn't it more about being agile, pivoting, seizing opportunities as they arise?
That's a valid and important question. It comes up all the time.
But the authors address this directly. Strategy doesn't have to be some rigid, static document carved in stone.
No, it can and absolutely should be dynamic and adaptable. You can build in flexibility through things like strategic alliances, outsourcing, platform strategy.
And the timeframes for strategic planning are often shorter now, right?
Definitely. Focusing more on making the best decisions you can today based on the most likely future scenarios, while knowing you might need to adjust.
So it's not about predicting the future perfectly, but about making coherent choices now, based on possibilities.
Precisely. So here's a final point to really consider, maybe mull over.
Okay, a takeaway thought.
What is the fundamental difference between simply having a strategy, maybe one of those narrowly defined marketing strategies or operational strategies we mentioned at the outset, versus having a truly comprehensively designed and mutually reinforcing strategy that consciously addresses all 5 of these essential elements, the whole diamond? What kind of impact do you think that distinction actually has on an organization's ability to achieve lasting success?
Not just for huge corporations, but maybe even in your own projects, your own professional endeavors.
It's a really critical distinction to keep in mind, I think, that difference between a strategy and a complete strategy.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the core elements of strategy.
We really hope this framework, this strategy diamond, provides you with a powerful new way to analyze and understand any business or initiative you encounter.
Keep reflecting on these ideas. Arenas, vehicles, differentiators, saging, economic logic, and how they relate to your own experiences.
And be sure to join us next time. Perhaps we'll delve into some of those strategic analysis tools like Porter's 5 forces in more detail.
Sounds like a plan. Thanks for listening.